As discussions about school corporal punishment continue, one word appears time and time again: fairness. Whether someone supports or opposes the use of the cane or slipper, memories of school discipline are often shaped less by the punishment itself than by whether it was considered fair. Many former pupils who look back on their school days now do so with remarkable honesty. They readily admit that they deserved to be punished. Looking back through adult eyes, they recognize that they knowingly broke school rules and simply accepted the consequences. Others remember matters very differently. Their resentment was not necessarily directed towards corporal punishment itself, but towards what they believed was an injustice. There is an important distinction between the two. A pupil who receives the cane for an offence they freely admit committing may later remember the experience without bitterness, even if it was painful. By contrast, someone punished for circumstances beyond their control may carry that resentment for decades. One example illustrates the point perfectly. A former pupil recalled a girl who was caned for arriving late to class. She insisted the delay had not been her fault. Whether that was true can no longer be determined, but from her perspective she had been punished despite doing nothing wrong. It was the injustice she remembered. The cane merely became the symbol of that injustice. Another former pupil described a girl punished after tracing over a name already carved into a desk. She accepted that some form of punishment was justified, but believed the severity far exceeded the offence. Again, the lasting memory was not simply one of pain, it was one of disproportion. These examples raise an interesting question. If exactly the same punishment had been imposed for offences the pupils freely admitted committing, would they have remembered it differently? Many believe they would. Fairness often determines whether punishment is accepted or rejected. This is not unique to schools. Adults also distinguish between a justified penalty and an unjust one. A speeding motorist may accept a fine if caught travelling well above the limit, yet strongly resent receiving one because of an incorrectly calibrated speed camera. The punishment may be identical. The reaction is entirely different. Several former pupils admitted that, although strict, their teachers were generally fair. Rules were clearly explained, punishments were predictable, and favoritism was rare. In such schools, corporal punishment often became simply another part of the disciplinary system. Children might fear it, they might dislike it intensely, but they generally knew where they stood. Others attended schools where punishments appeared inconsistent. The same offence might earn one pupil a stern warning while another received several strokes of the cane. Such inconsistency naturally bred resentment, regardless of whether corporal punishment was involved. Consistency, therefore, mattered almost as much as fairness itself. Another interesting observation concerns authority. Many pupils remembered trusting particular headmasters or headmistresses, even when they dreaded visiting their offices. Reputation counted for a great deal. A respected head teacher, who was known to listen before making a decision, often commanded genuine respect. Pupils still feared the cane, but they believed it would only be used when deserved. That confidence could make a significant difference to how punishment was remembered years later. Ironically, many former pupils reserve their strongest criticism not for the person who administered the punishment, but for the teacher whose report led to it. A classroom teacher might witness an incident and refer the matter to the head teacher for formal discipline. If the pupil believed the report exaggerated events or ignored important details, resentment frequently focused upon the reporting teacher rather than the person actually administering the punishment. This demonstrates how complex school discipline could become. Responsibility was rarely carried by one individual alone. The discussion also highlights an often overlooked difference between corporal punishment and other forms of discipline. A detention is, in many respects, impersonal. Although imposed by one teacher, it may be supervised by another. The pupil serves the punishment, but the teacher who originally awarded it may be nowhere to be seen. Corporal punishment is different. The person imposing the punishment is physically present throughout. The interaction is direct, immediate, and intensely personal. If resentment develops, It has a very obvious focus. Yet even here the picture is more complicated. In many schools, classroom teachers did not administer the cane themselves. Instead, they referred serious cases to the headmaster, headmistress, or deputy head. The teacher reported the offence. The senior member of staff investigated it. The punishment, if considered appropriate, was then administered by someone else entirely. Where, then, would resentment naturally fall? Upon the teacher who made the report, or upon the head teacher who ultimately delivered the punishment? There is no universal answer. Each child experienced these events differently. Looking back today, perhaps the most striking feature is how frequently former pupils return to the same conclusion. Schools were often strict, sometimes extremely strict. Yet many still describe them with a curious mixture of respect and affection. The phrase heard again and again is remarkably simple. They were strict, but they were fair. Whether that judgment is objectively correct is almost impossible to determine. What it does reveal is that for many people, fairness mattered far more than the cane, the slipper, or any other punishment ever could.